Strategies for enhancing motivation. Applying theory is challenging. Here are some strategies for enhancing motivation. Reinforcement/behavior modification theory. Reinforcement means applying, or withholding, positive, or negative, consequences in order to motivate employees to exhibit behaviors the manager wants. Examples of specific reinforcement strategies are positive reinforcement, punishment, omission, and negative reinforcement. 1. Positive reinforcement. Apply positive consequences when employees exhibit desired behaviors. 2. Punishment. Apply negative consequences when employees exhibit undesirable behaviors. 3. Omission. Withhold positive consequences when employees exhibit undesirable behaviors, and 4. Negative reinforcement. Withhold negative consequences when employees exhibit desired behaviors. When using reinforcement, managers must keep in mind the idea of regression to the mean, the principle that, from one performance measure to the next, the change in employee performance will be toward the average level of that employee's performance. Goal-setting theory. SMART goals, goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-framed, are most likely to result in increased employee performance. A popular method of goal setting is management by objectives, which is a system of collaborative goal setting that extends from the top of an organization to its bottom. Management by objectives. Management by objectives is a system of collaborative goal setting that extends from the top to the bottom of the firm. Employees learn more about company-wide objectives, feel as though they are part of a team, see how they can improve company performance by achieving their own goals. Participative management and empowerment. Giving employees a voice in how they do their jobs and how the company is managed tends to increase employee satisfaction and their commitment to company goals. One way of doing this is through quality circles. Team management. Companies benefit from using teams of workers because increased motivation and job satisfaction usually occurs. Various kinds of teams are described, for example, problem-solving, self-managed, project, transnational, and virtual. Job enrichment and redesign. These approaches can increase satisfaction if a job lacks motivating factors. Job enrichment means adding motivating factors to a job in order to increase satisfaction. Job enrichment is accomplished by job redesign, which involves combining tasks to increase job variety, forming natural work groups, and establishing client relationships. 1. Combining tasks, enlarging jobs and increasing their variety to make employees feel that their work is more meaningful. 2. Forming natural work groups. People who do different specific jobs on the same project are good candidates for natural work groups. 3. Establishing client relationships. This involves letting employees interact with customers. Modified work schedules. Different approaches to working hours and the workweek as a motivating strategy include flex time, compressed work week, telecommuting, and work share programs. 1. Flex time. Employees are allowed some choice in the hours they work. Flex time may allow choice of hours within a day or days within a week. 2. Compressed work weeks. Under this system, employees work fewer days per week, but more hours per day on the days they work. 3. Telecommuting. This system allows people to do all or part of their work away from the traditional office. It allows people to avoid wasting time driving to and from work, but some people miss the interaction with others at the workplace. 4. Work share programs, also called job sharing. Work sharing allows two people to share one job either on a short-run basis or for the long run. Both employees and employers typically benefit. Leadership and motivation. Leadership is the processes and behaviors used by managers to motivate, inspire, and influence others to meet organizational objectives. Leadership and management are not synonymous terms. To fully understand leadership, it is also necessary to understand power, which is the ability to affect the behavior of others. There are several different types of power: legitimate power, resulting from the specific position the manager occupies in the formal hierarchy of the organization; reward power, the power to give or withhold rewards like salary increases, bonuses, promotions, praise, and interesting job assignments; coercive power, the power to force another person to comply by means of psychological, emotional, or physical threat; expert power, which is derived from information or expertise that the manager possess; and referent power, which is based on subordinates' identification with the leader and their urge to imitate the leader. Approaches to leadership. There are several different approaches that have been evident over the years: the trait approach, the behavioral approach, and the situational approach. 1. The trait approach. This approach focused on identifying the traits that distinguish leaders from non-leaders. Many traits were identified, but the list became so long that it was of no practical value. 2. The behavioral approach. The goal of this approach was to determine how the behavior of effective leaders differed from the behavior of ineffective leaders. Task-focused and employee-focused behaviors were the key behaviors that were identified. Leadership styles. Researchers identified three main leadership styles: autocratic, democratic, and free rein. Autocratic, orders are issued and expected to be obeyed without questions. Democratic, manager requests input from workers before making decisions but ultimately makes the final decision. Free rein, subordinates given a lot of discretion in making decisions. The manager becomes an advisor. The situational approach to leadership. The basic assumption in this approach is that leadership situations are complex, so different situations will require different kinds of leader behaviors. Several different contingency theories are discussed, including the path-goal theory, the decision tree approach, and the leader-member exchange (LMX) model. Recent trends in leadership. During the past few decades, several new ideas about leadership have emerged. These include the following. 1. Transformational leadership. Transformational leadership refers to the abilities that allow a leader to recognize the need for change, to create a vision to guide the change, and to execute the change effectively. Transactional leadership, by contrast, deals with routine matters. 2. Charismatic leadership. This is a type of influence based on the leader's personal charisma. Charismatic leader possesses a high level of confidence, possess a strong need to influence others, communicate high expectations of subordinates, and generally more successful at influencing subordinates. Charismatic leaders envision likely future trends, energize others by demonstrating personal excitement, and empathize with others. 3. Leaders as coaches. As organizations become less hierarchical, leaders become more like coaches than commanders. 4. Gender and leadership. Research shows that female leaders are not necessarily more nurturing or supportive than male leaders. As well, male leaders are not necessarily more harsh, controlling, or task-focused than female leaders. 5. Cross-cultural leadership. Increased diversity in workforces around the world means that leaders must be able to deal with many different kinds of subordinates. For example, Canadian versus American management styles. Canadian managers tend to be more subtle and subdued than American managers, more committed to their companies, less willing to mindlessly follow the latest management fad, and more open to different cultures because of the multicultural nature of Canada. 6. Strategic leadership. This refers to a leader's ability to understand the complexities of both the organization and its environment in order to lead change in the organization which will improve its competitiveness. 7. Ethical leadership. Business leaders are increasingly being called upon to maintain high ethical standards in their own conduct, and to hold others in the organization to the same high standard. 8. Virtual leadership. Formerly, Leaders and subordinates worked in close proximity to one another, but now leaders and subordinates may be physically separated, for example, telecommuting. Therefore, leaders have to work at creating and maintaining relationships with their employees that go beyond words on a computer screen.